say, the topic of discussion.
What did you wish to see? It's all been sealed. You won't turn back.
Welcome to the Porthole to Justice. It is Saturday evening, the 16th, and I have today with me two special guests. I'm going to be doing back-to-back shows tonight, this evening, because I'm behind. I know I haven't been live in some time, but I'm going to be doing Lotus Justice, live with Lotus at 7 p.m. this evening. I hope you guys can subscribe to the show on Spreaker. It's free. There's also an app that you can download so that you can get notifications of shows. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guests this evening. Tonight I have with me two old friends, Eugene Wzorack and Bill Fabricius. And they are representing the Death of the Justice System, which is a book that you can purchase. And it is all about audio in the courts, fraud on the court, the coup within the judiciary. And they have so much information to share with us. So no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guests to the show. Hi, guys. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, we are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Oh, great. Welcome, Eugene Wzorack and Bill Fabricius. Welcome to the Porthole to Justice.
Yeah, long time no talk for a while, Amy, but you're doing great. I heard some of your shows, and you're one of those that really tell the truth. And if anybody wants to debate what we say, we can use affidavits to go against one another, the courts, to everything else, the system. Yeah, they do cheat. The FBI, everybody does cheat, and you're lucky you got Trump in there. Whether you like him or not, it's not the point. The idea is it's the only way we can get in. When they had the other tree in there, Bush, Clinton, Obama, they'd block you. Their authorities would block you. Now we can come in and do what we got to do and expose the fraud, the tapes, and everything else. Because we had that for years.
Eugene, I would like, if you could just premise for our listeners a little bit about yourself so they know who you are.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was a truck driver. I was just fired by the city of Chicago. a consent decree, and you can't appeal a consent decree. So we went to court. I was the first one that went in there, and out of anybody that ever won since 72 to 2015 was me, nobody else, because it was set up to lose. Everything there is a fake. The judges are fake, everybody's fake. Because we were with the FBI, and it was James Stover the other day, and he was saying, how can you win if it's so set up against you? I mean, it's impossible. Well, no, it's not impossible, because if you're brought up from these guys, you know how they cheat. So all you do is use their stuff against them. See, if you're in a court with a judge, now I'm going to tell you the key to this is, if you have interaction and extensive fraud, it's a different story. If they fraud you, he don't have to stop the case. If the court frauds him, or any court officer, including your lawyer, then he must look into that case and see what the fraud is.
When you say, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to clarify.
No.
When you say extrinsic and forensic, can you define that for the listeners?
Yes, they could.
Oh, yeah, Bill. Welcome to the show, Bill Fabricius.
Well, and don't bother about interrupting me. I love when anybody interrupts me, because it's better to do that than to talk later after, because you might as well find out the answer right now when you want it.
Okay.
Okay. In a court setting, you have litigant A, litigant B, which are the plaintiff and the defendant, and they can lie to each other. And when they can commit fraud among each other. And it's both parties' requirement to root out and ferret out that fraud. So that's intrinsic fraud. It's interior to the lawsuit. So it's between litigant A and litigant B. You can lie, cheat, steal, forge, fraud, deceive, and it's the other party's responsibility to ferret that out, to determine that, to expose that. Now, somebody in the group, whether it be the plaintiff and or the defendant, frauds the court, that becomes extrinsic fraud.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have, under Brady versus Maryland, extrinsic or exculpatory evidence that say the prosecutor is against you, Child Protective Service, and they know certain information and they withhold it from the court, they have just committed extrinsic fraud. And the concept that Gene and I have been working on is political patronage cover-up of extrinsic fraud on the court, by court officers. So that's a concept that we're using political patronage cover-up. We're covering up the true facts because they have patronage people, the workers that are in the system, and it's extrinsic fraud upon the court, by court officers, by the extrinsic fraud on the court, by court officers. So what they're doing is they're keeping evidence out of the court's purview because they're withholding it. Mm-hmm. And that becomes extrinsic fraud. So that's the difference between intrinsic, between the two litigants, and extrinsic is when somebody else frauds the court. It could be litigant A, litigant B, it could be the clerk, it could be Child Protective Service, it could be anybody in there that frauds the court by withholding evidence. And once you withhold evidence under 7th Circuit Court of Appeals Rule 11E/D, they cannot do another motion.
Not only that, Bill, but tell her that exactly, Amy. When anybody takes something out of that case, even your audio tape or anything, and they don't put it back, then that means the case is over, you win. They've stopped themselves. Now, we've stopped themselves enough times. We've beaten them enough times. Now we've got the FBI. We're going to have a meeting Monday, and we forced the issue with the Stover guy. And they know we're on him, and since Chicago's in Trump's headlights. Now, this is what the public's got to understand. You might not like Trump, but he's your only chance, because he's not a lawyer. Since he's not a lawyer, he's not bound by the Bar Association to do what they want first, because he's not for you. Because I've never seen an honest lawyer. If you got one, show me. I think they're...
What you're saying is Trump is a de jure man. And when I say de jure,
Right.
I mean that he is not registered with the bar, and he still remains a citizen like you and I.
I love your words, Amy, because you're very educated, and so am I. I got a 183 IQ, so there you go. But listen to what I'm telling you. You're right. But just to get to the Redwood people, listen to this now. It's better that you do your case on a lower level than to go to ones that went to court on a higher level, because they can't come down to your level. They're so used to talking higher up from their bar association, from their law schools and that if you know what you're doing and you bring them down to the pro se level, they're screwed. They can't do nothing. They don't know how to answer you.
And even then, it's always good to start out on the lower level, because then you have a higher court to appeal your case to. If you go straight to federal court or you go straight to superior court, then you really you don't leave yourself any avenues. So I'm having problem with audio. My audience is saying that we're not hearing you very well. I hope you can come back on through Skype and do another interview. Both of you are welcome back on the show so that we can get...
Well, anytime you ask, Amy, we'll come out for you, because you're really good with your show and you're honest. But the people out there got to know there's a chance from now. If one case pulls this off about the tapes, then they have to give you your audio tapes. And more than likely, 90% of you have been frauded already. And that estoppels them, and it's over. So we can basically knock them out of the box. What happened in my case is they had the Shackman decree, which is a consent decree. And they were trying to make it a law, but they lost, and I made it a law. So it's my law. And in there, Duff says, I can't give you your tapes, and Bill will go over that with you, and he broke the law. He let me win, but broke the law. They let me widen the Shackman because they didn't want me going to the Supreme Court with it. Now, we even caught them there. It's just like, Amy, when you were talking about liens and stuff on one of your shows. Well, who puts the lien on is a general attorney, next session. He tells the Supreme Court to put a lien on. The other liens don't usually go through. That's what
I don't want to get too much into the liens, simply because that requires permission from the state or the DA, the Attorney General, or the Attorney General, I think, for you to proceed with a lien. And it's a little bit more involved. But the audio, however, I've published a template that I use personally in my case with my son in Child Protective Services to the Porthole to Justice wall that the listeners can access themselves. And it's an audio affidavit requesting and citing your rights in regards to requesting your civil rights and the Second Amendment, I think it is. And there's some really good information there, so I encourage you to check that out.
Always, Amy, not to get, to say, but always use the First Amendment, because the amendment must be heard. Mm-hmm. So that amendment takes in every one of the other amendments, okay, Amy?
I remember that both, actually, in the affidavit. So, but yes, of course.
Oh, and I remember your case very well, because we were with you when you did that case about asking for the tapes. And that's, remember, you pounded the thing and you heard it was a microphone?
Yeah, and I'm so grateful, because I'll tell you, everybody that's listening in, Bill and Eugene, I do think were very instrumental in assisting me with getting my son back in court. And I will never forget what happened in the courtroom when the judge asked me if I wanted to say anything. And I said, well, yes, of course. And so I stood up and I said I would like to request my audio from the proceedings. And he dismissed the court right away. You could have heard a pen drop in that courtroom. I mean, he just shut it down. shut it down. And I mean, everybody was like scammering around and escorting me out of the courtroom. I mean, he really was not prepared for, I don't think he was prepared for what came out of my mouth.
Oh, that's why you would, Amy. Amy, let me tell you something else. Do you remember this? Because my memory, Amy, goes really pretty good. I can remember what happened since I was 4. I can tell you what Duff wore on the day he wore it. That's what screwed them up. They would talk in front of me, not realize I would never forget. See, the point was, remember what the lawyer said? She's obsessed with the tapes. She's obsessed with the tapes. Remember the one guy?
Yeah.
They had to give you the win because they didn't know what to do. That was the first time they were hitting California with the tape issue. So, in other words, you walked away with your kid and they can't do nothing about that. And that's why they're so mad at you and trying to hurt you. But that's not going to happen. Because once we do this, we're going to make sure we go back and make sure it's cleared perfectly for everything.
So, right now, we kind of like, everybody's kind of like in this stalemate, and we don't know what to think of the justice system because we have, openly we know that there's treason occurring. We have Comey, who's recently in the news, in headlines again. And everybody's kind of like, what is going on with the justice system? I mean, how do we legitimize it? Or do we have a justice system right now?
What justice system are you talking about?
The judiciary, the bar.
No, this is how it works, okay? It's done politically. People are given jobs so they can vote for the right people in.
I know, but politics now seems to be implementing law, and this is and it's through establishment law, and this is very scary territory for me personally to witness what's occurring because we have the bar openly legislating laws.
The bar are you talking about? The jail bars?
I'm talking about establishment law. Which,
I know. Listen, we can say what we want here because we got all the evidence to stop them. They can't do anything. I don't think they can bring anybody in here in an affidavit to stop us. Because we got so much evidence. We got enough to stop our cases after 3-4 questions. We can tell you how to answer questions and ask them. You ask a question with the answer in it already and try to ask a question with a yes or no answer. They can't handle that. See, we worked this out. I grew up in the system since I was 4. And ate and sat there with these guys and listened to them. And my grandfather was in it, my uncles were in it, and everybody was in it. So you're sitting there as a kid and you laugh about it, but you can remember everything. And as you get older, you put it all together and you find out it's all a fraud. When you walk in that courtroom, you have no friends, Amy. So the best thing you can do is throw it up for scrambles, do what you can do, fraud. See? And the point is, then you use the fraud to throw out the case, and then it stops it. So basically, there's a way Bill is telling you with the laws, and I'm telling you how to get it right in there, go from A to B, show fraud, that throws out the case, and you're the winner. So basically, automatically people out there, even if they're not giving you the tapes, if you give them an affidavit, and you ask for the tapes, and they don't give them to you, they're breaking the law. It's fraud in your case already. So you're starting out with fraud. Eventually, when we bring this to a head, which is going to happen, then what's going to happen out there? All these cases are frauded. You know what I mean, Amy? Just like in your case. That was fraud. They had to stop. They didn't give you the tapes. It's fraud. They were holding back. That's Rule 11. Amy, we're going to send you stuff that we've got and dockets and stuff so you'll know exactly what you're doing because you're a smart lady and you know what's going on. And in this Rule 11, and everybody's looking in the court procedures for this, it's not court procedure. It's in the appellate court. We treat stuff from the lawyers, only the lawyers. If they don't put the stuff back in and they take something out of your case, that case is estoppel right there and you're the winner because they can't make another motion. Like in our case, what we got going right now while we're hitting them hard and with Trump, because Trump is not a lawyer and he's after Chicago, is they can't make another motion. If I go to the Supreme Court now, they can't go with me. They can't do that until they put the tape back in. And see, Lawrence Rosenthal stole the tape and he signed it. See, we've got so much evidence in the book, that's why he stopped it. And you never guess who was the writer of that book. And Bill, got us to that company. It was run by somebody that's really high up there in Chicago politics. So basically that's why they try to hold back the book. But anyway, Amy, the deal is, is when they commit that Rule 11 fraud, they can't do nothing else in your case. And with the people make mistakes,
okay, just for the the listeners' sake, when you say Rule 11,
that's in the appellate.
Let me ask you this, or answer this. There's federal rules of civil proceedings. There are local rules for the individual courts. Then, in what we're referring to is the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals rules. So the Court of Appeals have their separate rules. So you have the local Superior Court rules. Then you have local state rules. Then you have the federal rules of civil proceedings. And then in this case, since Gene went to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has their own individual specific rules. And
it works for everybody.
On Rule 11, we're talking about the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, Rule 11, and it's either in Section E, which was where it was when Gene had it. They revised the rules to Section B. So there's a little sentence in there that says when you remove evidence from the file, you're prevented from filing another motion. So on your website, you go to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, Rule 11E or D, and you can read that in one paragraph. Read it carefully. I think it's the third sentence in there that says when you remove evidence from the file, you cannot file another motion until you put that evidence back.
Now, here's what that would Bill didn't understand what I had to do, because I know the tricks that was brought up with these people. So basically, they try to blacken that out. When you take the black off it, it shows all the stuff you can get, and the tapes are in there, and they're not even first. They're in their third or so, right, Bill? Yeah. And the point is that means you automatically get your tapes because the government pays for that. You pay for that as taxpayers. So when your tapes are taken out, you're the winner. They can't make another motion. They can't do nothing. You're in court by yourself now. And that's the name of the game. They're trying to hide that. And why they tried to hide my case, because after I did Shackman, which was a consent decree, a contract, they must pay me. There's no appealing on that. And then when I beat them, see, one of us was going to win. The city was going to put on a precedent, or the other person was going to put on precedent. Well, they got their butts whipped. And I put it out there, and mine goes under jobs, and the Shackman doesn't exist, but they try to carry that on for 25 years to try to hide other people. So basically, it's good in every case, though, Bill. See, what the people out there don't know, just because it's in Illinois, it don't mean it's not in California and all the other places. Federal law is federal law all over, right, Bill?
Yes.
See, because it goes all to the Supreme Court. So basically, when they forge you, and you're in a different court, you go right to the federal court. You're right in it now, because they just violate your constitutional rights under the First Amendment. And we could beat their butts anytime, any day, anytime. We can bring them out here. Anybody wants to say something, anybody from the Supreme Court, anywhere, and we'll shut them down. Mm-hmm. Because that's the law. Now, when we go Monday, Amy, the next time we're on your show, we'll tell you what happens with what we do with the FBI here. See, because basically the guy was worried pretty much, right, Bill?
Yes.
He couldn't handle us. So in other words, with Trump being on your side, now here's the point. You might not like the guy. That's your business. You don't like who you like. You don't like us. It's your business, too. But the point is, that's the only way you're going to get a fair shake, because he's not a lawyer. So he's a businessman. And that's how you're going to win this thing. If you have a lawyer...
because he represents... He truly, in the true definition of the word, represents the citizens quite literally, because he is de jure. He is not a foreign agent of the state. He is not a bar-registered, licensed person. He is a de jure man, which means he maintains his citizenship and he represents the people. He does not have a bar license, and he has not been cooed by the foreign agents that have infiltrated our judiciary. And
you're so right, Amy. I mean, your show is right, and you're right on the button, and what you're saying is totally correct and totally true. But the people just don't understand. They don't see how easy it is to beat these guys if you know all the angles, if you know the inside roads to this stuff. So if you go in there and you're like the tunnel rat like me, and I throw them out, and Bill hits them with the rules, they can't win. I go against them with their own stuff. And then when they try to turn around and use it the other way, then we can just shoot them down with the real rules. They can't win anything. See, because they must forge every case in the same kind of way. Because when you're out there forging everything across the country, you can't change it. You can't afford to change it. There's too many cases in there. That's why in the Shackman case, there could be 20, 30, 40,000 cases, maybe more. And everybody lost. They couldn't afford to lose one. When they lost it, that's it. So that's why they tried to hide the case. Now, if Trump didn't come in, if Hillary Clinton got in, I couldn't get in with this. Because they would have barred you at the top. Because here's what happens. Your little agents at the bottom want to keep their jobs just like truck drivers, just like anybody else wants to keep their job. And they don't go
social workers,
right.
And that's where the patronage comes in, which is another important point, I think.
Why about patronage in my case? See, once it comes to light, the case, there's no more patronage. And that's when they had to cover it. See, now when we go in and we're with the FBI and Trump and stuff like that, and we know the man and know people that know him and stuff like that, well, they're in a little trouble now. So for the next 3 years, how long you keep this guy in, they can't be doing what they're doing. That's why they're going after him with the women, with this, with that, with anything, because doesn't it sound crazy?
Well, yeah, they're basically trying to leverage themselves by sacrificing a few of their own, saying,
right.
Oh, look, these guys are they groped us. They have sexually assaulted us, so to speak, quote unquote. And they're stepping down from their powerful positions. So now we're going to go after, and eventually what they're building up to is they're going to say, well, Trump is a part of this as well, and we're going to ask him to step down as president because he is, quote unquote, a part of this, and so many of these other powerful individuals have stepped down for their positions. They're saying we're going to sacrifice a couple of our own so that we can move forward with, removing Trump as president in the White House, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. And at the same time, they're trying to sweep the whole child trafficking, pedophilia issue under the rug.
You're correct, Amy. And you know what, Amy? I didn't know nothing about the children until I came out and met you and all these people out there. See, I didn't know how big it was. I just came out knowing that there were audio tapes. When I got to Mr. Fabricius, he'll tell you, no one knew about the tapes. I knew about them from Chicago. And basically, if you look at the system, now Mr. Fabricius can tell you this, 94 main U.S. attorneys under Obama in all positions in the United States all came from Chicago or went to Northwestern or went to the University of Chicago Law School. So the clout came out of Chicago. Now, you got to remember something here. When you run the House Ways and Means Committee, it's the most important job in Washington because you change presidents. Now, Dan Rostenkowski wasn't. So Daley got that from getting Kennedy elected. So basically, you're dealing with a Chicago way that's out here. Mm-hmm. So basically, where you're going to get somebody that knows it except somebody from the Chicago system. So basically, you know exactly every move they're going to make if you grew up in it. See, these guys were old men. I was 4. They were 60, 70. They're gone. But you see, you understand the way they do things. And you just throw it up and you just, it's a pattern. And you can find that pattern in 10, 15 minutes if you know what to look for in all these cases. So basically, that main issue you got is asking for that tape, even if you don't get it, because that's always going to prove fraud. Because they have to give you the tape.
So, recently in the social media news network, I had posted a Dabu7, who I consider a very credible resource as far as reporting in the alternative news media arena. And he had mentioned that they were calling in the United Nations, Eugene, to
Chicago?
basically resolve the issue regarding them dropping off weapons, using Cessnas or what have you to drop off weapons in the Chicago area. And this is concerning because we are now thinking, wow, this is like martial law. And I mean, a lot of my friends are kind of, their feathers are ruffled because we don't want the blue hats, so to speak, coming in to our territory.
All right, let me ask you a question now. The United Nations don't have to come into martial law. Trump can call it if he finds the courts are totally corrupt. Because let's basically look at this. Where have you gone in the last 30 years with these people? Trump keeps mentioning 30 years because he knows he's a businessman. As he's sitting there, he knows some of the GOP is not with him either. They're the good old boys, too. They've been taking your money, doing this stuff, and playing with all these games. They don't want the good times to end. But the good times are ending, believe me. See, because they're not going to be able to get out of this. See, the point is they can control everybody in them. How many times you people went into lawyers or you went into the offices to get some help and they'd say, wow, what a good case, but then you get a letter back, a form letter that says you don't have enough. That's because when it goes high up, it stops. And these people at the middle level that said you had a good case, no, you have a good case, but they can't do anything because they want to support their children. So basically on this issue, we have to get one case, and then make it for the whole country. Because think about it. What have you got in common with me, Amy, and Bill, and everybody else? You ain't got your record. Now, what does Judge Posner say? Now, we've got that in the book, and we've got that too. We're going to give you all this stuff, Amy, so you can put it out there. But Posner says the only record is the audio tape, and that's the master tape that's kept inside the room, and they're usually in the same court. They can never leave. They never leave ever, and there's a safe for it. In every court there is. I know that as a fact. So basically that tape is there, and that's the master. The court reporter has, they change every 5-10 years in different ways, electronics, this or that. But here's the thing. Everybody out there in California where you were should understand what Johnny Cochran did. Every day, after every hearing, every status, he has somebody pick up the tape from the court reporter. She has 2 of them in her thing. See? And one is for you, and one is for the other side. And she can copy off one of them first for hers, and then she sends it out. Now, what everybody must understand now, if you're very smart, you'll understand this. The court reporter does not forge the tape. She hands it over to the other side. The other side forges it, gives it back to her, and then she sends it out. So she can tell you on the bench, I never forged this, I never did this. But she's complicit in getting the forged tape and selling it to you. So basically, when you walk in the courtroom, Amy, everybody's against you. You're paying for the court officers with your tax money. You're paying the penalty, and you're paying for a forged transcript. This is a setup. This is like a screenplay. This is nothing but a movie. So you've got to know how to use their stuff against them. That's the key. And if you're not brought up in the system, it's very hard, right, Bill?
Yes.
Tell them what you learned, Bill.
No, I met Gene in 2013, and he educated me on specifically, did it ever occur to you that they're cheating you? That was the question that brought me out into the limelight and said, everything I see in my case, I can attribute to some form of cheating against me. And then when Gene got me to...
I mean, and I can also confirm that, going through this process, I recall walking into the courtroom and you have the county council, you have the guardian ad litem, which is representation of the minor, and you have county council, and then I think there's one other. So you have basically like 3 attorneys working against you. You have CPS attorney as well. And you're in a custody battle with the state. And I don't think people fully wrap their heads around that before they go into the CPS courtrooms, because they come out with whiplash and they're like, what the hell just happened to me?
See, that's the thing I had. Going in there, I knew I was going to be cheated, so I had to play a different game with them.
Yeah,
See,
people think, oh, this is an agency and this is a system set up to protect them. So they walk in and they think, okay, well, I'm just going to explain as a parent. I mean, as a parent, we go through so many awkward stages with our children, and especially new parents. And some things, are easily explained. And CPS, though, is notorious for creating issues that aren't, quote unquote, there. So a lot of times parents are just trying to fight fraud, but they go into the CPS courts thinking, I'm just going to say what happened. No, that's not at all what's going to occur when you go in there. You're going up against 3 lawyers.
But I stop you for a moment, Amy. Here's the deal. When you go in there and you try to defend something that's not true, how are you going to do that when it never happened? How are you going to get a witness to that? Let them make the charges on you and then empty out their charges. Let them produce first. Don't go in there and think I'm going to say, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. They don't care. And as a matter of fact, I've heard from some lawyers that they're ready to tell you how much you can get on that case, what you can do. They're set up before you get there. See, that's basically it. We got people that go in there and talk too and do things. So basically, Amy, you let them present their case, then you put the holes in them. You don't go and defend their case making it legitimate, because it's not legitimate. It's phony. See, the point is, everybody does the opposite of what they should do. So you've got to understand how they play the game. Once you play the game and you get them over a hump, and you get them in that fraud, the main thing is the fraud now. When you show any kind of fraud in there, that vitiates the case. It's over. And you must start from the beginning. And remember, your depositions are even taped. Your statuses, everything is taped there. If there's fraud anywhere there, it's being done by the government.
Let's talk about the lobby, okay?
Okay.
This is important, because I don't think people really understand how thorough the surveillance is. Let's talk about how we should not talk in the lobby outside the courtroom.
Stop right there. I'll give you a movie to watch. Did you ever watch Casino?
Yeah, of course.
Hey,
De Niro and
it.
Sharon Stone.
Yeah. Well, I happened to meet her accidentally with somebody there. But then, guys, let me tell you something. The only thing that isn't tape recorded in there is the lunchroom, because you make too much noise. Every elevator. So when we used to go down there with guys who were former state's attorneys that became lawyers, they'd say, be quiet any place in this building. Everything is taped. Everything is taped. Only the lunchroom isn't taped, because there's too many people that are making noise and you can't hear it right. So in that one part of the movie, think about this. They start talking about knocking off that guy, remember? The guy, Owen King, right? Yeah, and they said, we went to one place in the thing and we talked about it.
Yeah,
and
Joe Pesci. Weren't they in the bathroom, I think, in that scene?
Yeah, no, they talked, no, the bathroom's tapped too. They had to go to the lunchroom. That's the only place they could talk about it. And they all couldn't get in the bathroom, maybe. Because they had wheelchairs to go, guys. But anyway, that's just here nor there. That's us talking. But think about it. But see, you must here. It's like Sherlock Holmes said. What did Sherlock Holmes say? When you eliminate the impossible, whatever's there highly improbable, that's your solution. So what you're not understanding, you're being cheated. What do you do about it then? All you can do is try to turn their stuff against them and find some piece of fraud where you make the case go the other way.
Because currently, right now as it stands, and I want to direct this towards Bill Fabricius, we have no remedy in the courts.
That is correct. You're asking for a remedy. Now, here's something that I'm working on, something else. In the Constitution, Article 2, Section 3, which is executive branch. Article 2, Section 3 talks about the President of the United States should enforce the laws of the United States. So the President of the United States of America's job is to enforce the laws of the United States. When you have attorney generals, FBIs, Department of Justice, all not supporting the President of the United States of America in their support of the laws of the United States, they're committing perjury, they're committing mutiny, they're committing treason against the United States Constitution.
So this is huge, guys. This is really big. And I know a lot of my listeners that are tuning in, they're concerned about martial law and the UN, the quote-unquote blue hats coming in. What is your guys'
No, that's not what would happen. That's why Trump is out there with the army here, there, and this. Because here, let me ask you a question, Amy. Now, you answer this seriously.
Well, no. I mean, W7 has published that the UN is coming into Chicago.
Everything could be changed. But here's the point. Let me ask you a question. Now, you could have martial law by our guys, our soldiers, the ones that are that went to Nam, the ones that went here and went there, our people, not the United Nations. But here's the point. If you're being cheated by these people for the last 50, 60, 70, 80 years, why are you afraid of martial law when it's going to clean house and clean the swamp? What do you think Donald is trying to do? He knows it's not just the Democrats. They've been in this game taking your money for years and years and years. I know it before. I mean, we used to laugh at it at 8 years old and stuff like that, and 10 years old, what was going on. Because we didn't understand these older men would be doing this stuff. And then as you get older, then you start realizing what you can put together if you got that kind of memory. So basically, let me ask you a question, Amy. Would you rather have it start with martial law and then turn to get good justices, good people in there, people that know, or would you rather just keep going on and be cheated and cheated and cheated and have your kids taken? Or would you want Trump in there? He should actually do 3 terms. Because they're taking away this first term. Let him put his own people in there, his own judges in there, because he's being honest and he's a businessman. You'd sooner have a businessman run this country than a political hack. Think about it. Now, let me ask you, what are you afraid of martial law for when you're being cheated anyway and you're not going in?
It's not that I'm afraid of martial law. I'm not particularly afraid of martial law because I feel like we've already been living under a soft form of martial law. It is the foreign agents, more foreign agents, the United Nations coming into our territory that concerns me.
It's not Trump. It's not Trump. He's not doing anything really wrong. Who is got
but
the uranium
stove? But they're coming into Chicago specifically.
Oh, Chicago. Chicago's going to be wiped off the map. Listen, they're so bad in that city. Well, I should know. But anyway, the point is, it's so bad here. You know what? They want to make it a Trump-free zone here. That's how crazy they fucking. Then they want to give any alien that comes in, and it doesn't matter as long as they tell you their name, the keys to the city. That's what they call the key city. You didn't hear that. It was on the news. So in other words, they can come in as long as they tell you their name. They can get anything free. What are we all crazy here? See what I mean? Because he don't know what to do. He was in there to protect Daley and straighten the city out, but it was so bad he couldn't even do it with Bloomberg money. See what I mean? That's the problem, Amy. So in other words, forget about Chicago. That's a different world. And you don't want this to be in Banana Republic.
Well,
once you have no...
that's the thing. I think that they're pushing the deep state where, I mean, Trump has leveraged himself and he's managed to acquire some power. But we clearly have the deep state, the shadow government, whatever you want to call it, that is using the mainstream media, the judiciary, and, all these levels of government to, affect. It feels like war on the people. It feels, I'm just speaking for myself here.
Well, you're in a revolution because every big country somewhere, every 100 years has one if you study history. I knew history, but pretty good too. See, the history was France had it when they brought Napoleon in. Then Russia had it during the First World War. Okay?
I think
Now,
the French Revolution is very relevant here because we're seeing...
Now, there is a revolution right now, but it's a political revolution. And Trump is the win now. Yeah, it is, because you can see Trump going against those guys, them guys swinging with everything they can to try to knock Trump down. But if you really look at it, Trump is even better for the black people than some of the blacks.
There's nothing behind it. It's not even a solid... I mean, all of it is contrived. It's painfully contrived.
And that's why he's so mad and he yells out and he tweets and everything, because he's trying to get it to you guys. Don't forget, he's a businessman. He runs businesses. So he can make money for you. He's going to make you better jobs. You're lucky to God he's a billionaire. If he wasn't a billionaire, he couldn't stay in there. Nobody could be in here 20 years, 30 years fighting a case unless they had backing. You can't do that. Now, you got to remember, there's people behind Trump. He can't do it himself. And then you're destroying something that's been here for 30, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. It got worse when they took over after Kennedy. See, that's the point. You got to look back to history. When you throw away history, you throw away what happened to you. You got to go to the start to find out what went on. So basically, that's why Trump keeps saying 30 years, 30 years, 30 years. And you can't go into Republican or Democrat because nobody realized it, but Old Man Daley was a Republican at first. He was under Bill Thompson in there. So was the other big judge from Chicago that swore them in. Then they turned over to be Democrats because Al Capone was a Republican. So they had to swing around. What's the big difference?
And the whole thing is now is that, we have so many infiltrators in the Republican Party as well as, on both sides, really, realistically. I mean, we have infiltrators. And so we have to consider that.
Well, here's the point. Trump is the major law enforcement officer in this country. Behind him is the Attorney General. Now, the Attorney General that I've seen, and I met the guy, but here's the point. He's a little old guy who's kind of weak. I mean, I understand that he just is not the strong kind of guy. And if you want predictions, just my opinion, he'll probably go back to Alabama for the next election, and they'll bring in somebody like Rudy Giuliani. And then you'll have a little, forcefulness back there.
So see, like Rudy Giuliani for Attorney General.
Yeah, well, you're going to have a tough guy in there. You got to know somebody that knows business. You can't have somebody that think about this. If the guy's been in there 40 years, now think, everybody on the Supreme Court, where did they come from? They came from different places as judges down the line. Weren't they political at one time? Were they precinct captains?
This is a big mess. As far as, the whole, it's a really sticky situation. And I think that unofficially, Giuliani has been very outspoken about this issue. But he hasn't gone officially on the record. And I think...
No, because he's not been elected to anything yet. Nobody's really brought this out because, don't forget, Trump is still feeling his way through everybody. You can't get rid of everybody at one time. If you're in a club or a gang or a system, Amy, you got to clean that system out before you make your big move. Now, he's ready to make his big move because all of a sudden, you see everybody was lying with Hillary, doing all this stuff, and all these women were talking about feminist stuff. It isn't that. Whether you're a woman or a man, justice is what counts. And not only what color you are, anything, that doesn't matter either. It just matters that you get justice and your family's doing better. Now, were you doing better for 30 years, Amy, or no? See, so the point is whatever's happening now is doing you some better. It's bringing it to light. The cockroaches are running.
I think people really need to take into consideration that we have this new tax policy that's coming up in the next few days. And I think if people just allow that to go through, I think that we will see a lot more positivity with the Trump administration. I don't think that, not allowing it to go through for anybody is not a win-win situation. So I'm really hopeful about this new tax policy. However,
it's got to go through, Amy.
Yeah, it's got to go through. It has to go through.
Here's what happened on TV now. Your government isn't really going to be shut down. What really happens is they get rid of non-workers that they need. So your state parks and this are closed. But here's what you got to understand. If there are workers getting that we don't need, why do we hire them in the first place except to be political package workers? See, that's the point. So what Trump is going by is bringing more companies back in here, even if you get the rich, because if Trump was rich, he couldn't do this. So why be jealous of him being rich? Mm-hmm. So if the companies come in here and get deals and make more jobs, your life will be better. If you stay right where you're at, you're not going anywhere. You're losing your children. You're losing anyway. You ain't got nobody in there doing something for you. Just use common sense. Sit down and think. Mm-hmm. If people would understand, Amy, you're very smart now. You're right on the ball with all this. So ask Bill what he thinks. What do you think, Mr. Bill?
Well, there's a couple things. In 1860, under the president of Lincoln, he did an executive order on the war. So due to the Civil War, he initiated an executive order, and when he initiated that executive order, basically martial law came into effect in 1860. And we've had a continuation of martial law under the Lincoln executive order, like war on drugs, war on education, war on poverty, Vietnam War, and everything that you can imagine since 1860, there's always been a declaration of a war on something. Well, that has continued the ability for the attorneys under the ABA and the American Bar to continue their infiltration, foothold position into all these positions. Now, in Gene's case, Mayor Daley got key positions in Washington. Well, what happens when you get key civilian positions in Washington? No matter who's elected to office, that policy, those people just continue year after year after year. And that's what's happened as we've gotten into you might say, a civil worker continuation of the government. Because, I mean, if you listen to Lisa Bloom in California, she offered $750,000 for an individual to testify allegedly against Trump. And it was interesting. It started out at $10,000, then it went to like $50,000, then it went to $100,000. She kept on bidding up the payments. And if you listen to what happened on Hannity yesterday or Laura Engel last night, the whole thing is pay for accusations, for presumptions, for alleging anything. And Laura or Lisa Bloom dropped that bombshell 2 days before the election. And no one can recover in 2 days, no matter what accusation you have. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing is they're throwing people under the bus by allegations, alleging innuendos with no proof, no substantiation, no evidence. And by the time people says, ouch, I'm not going to vote for that guy, and then they find out, oh, gee, that was just a big lie. I mean, you look at the uranium run, you look at these issues, you listen to what's going on with the destruction of government property to keep exculpatory evidence from being released. That's all part of this civilian deep state, you might say.
Yeah, you shouldn't hide how you vote. What are you hiding how somebody votes for? Because they can just change your votes. There's a place in the cemetery in Chicago where Confederate soldiers are buried. You can go there and get 7,000 votes anytime you want. So, I mean, what are they going to do about it? One time when I was a kid and I was a young driver, real young, and basically when I got in there, I says, man, I seen this guy on one of our sheets. He was from Alabama. And the guy said to me, what are you complaining about? He's way older than you. He deserves to be. So what am I going to say? See, that was the idea what you'd hear. And here's the point. Who are you going to tell about it? Where do you run to? Who are you going to tell when they're all in at? You're lucky you got Trump in there fighting this for you. To be honest with you, or you'd be living under the same crap.
No,
and you ain't going anywhere.
I don't think people fully understand, guys, that, these people that are puppets, basically, for the New World Order are promoting our enslavement. They don't want a middle class. They want a poor class, and they want an elite, and they want to remain the elites, and they think they're going to have a seat at the dinner table, so to speak, with the
that ain't gonna happen.
And no, it's not. It's all an illusion. We all need to unite. It's not true. And these people are merely puppets at this point. They're promoting an agenda that is not in our best interest. It's actually our demise.
It's not even their best interest. The ones that are doing this to the FBI, that's just working for their families too. They're getting screwed themselves and don't realize it. That's when you have a revolution, when you push somebody too far into the corner and you don't leave them a way out. That's what happens. See, that's how the game works. But here's a problem they have right now. They let us around too long and got too powerful and know too much about them. So you know where the skeletons are, where everybody's buried, and they put Trump in office. And that's the people being disgusted. So they took a guy that had nothing to do with politics and threw him in there. So now that he got in there and he's a businessman and a businessman, don't you think he smells rats? But he's got to be careful as he's doing this and changing everybody. It isn't that he's trolling everybody out every day. It's he realizes that they're all worth the crap. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And here's the point. How can you have, like, say, I was talking to the FBI guy still for a week, me and him, George, going there, Bill played this too. And I told him, I says, everybody smells good. He said, what do you mean? All 10,000 people are here. How can they be no good? I said, listen. I says, I'm not saying they're all bad. They're all trying to save their families and their homes. But if they have to hide the crime to save their family, what am I going to do? Give an award? I got to say they're bad too. What am I going to say? They're good? Mm-hmm. Because they're not doing their job. So then he didn't know what to say to me. I said, just like you come down here, you got to go home. You going to stick for me if they tell you not to? Mm-hmm. I said, but here's what I told him. He says, well, if you get the president, because I had the invitation from the president to the breakfast, and we had that invitation to him. So he said, well, if you get the president to call. I said, yeah, we'll get him to call later. But I said, do you ever think he's watching you to see why you're not doing it for a regular person? Like if Amy Durant walks in there, or one of your people, and asks them and shows them evidence that they're taking away their son illegally, and they're not going to do nothing because they're not told to. You mean you got to go find the president to tell him to go tell these guys to save Amy Durant's son when she's correct? He didn't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, why should I have to go to the president or appeal my case to the president of the United States when we have the rule of law and there should be due process in the lower courts? This is outrageous.
But you see, Amy, they happen to bump into somebody that happens to know the guy. You know what I mean? That's their problem. So the basic point would be, hey, I'll get him to call you later. Same thing with Sessions. I'll get him to call you, but let's check on you first. I said to him when he was walking away, because he even got scared. Even George said and Bill would play. They were afraid on the phone yesterday. They even let us call the FBI guy at his house. They said that's how worried they were. So I told him, I says, hey, man, as he's walking away, I says, no hard feelings. I know you got to do your job. I was a truck driver. I know how this works. I says, but did you ever think that they're just watching you? I could call him anytime I want to call you, but what happens if you're not doing it for a regular citizen, and then he's got to jump in? Then he knows you're no good, and who you're giving it to is no good. What does that mean?
What are your guys' predictions on martial law?
Well, here's the point. You're going to have to go either way or other way. If they try to get Trump out, there has to be martial law, and the Army will protect Trump. The Army, everybody's sick of what they're doing here. Everybody can see it. Veterans are living where? In fields? And this is the richest country in the world? What are you talking about here? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of places that are better in our country. Now, if we took back the money, think about that guy Madoff, Bernie Madoff. Me and Bill talks about this. Now, he steals all these billions of dollars or whatever it is. But what happens here? He only has to pay $1 million in fines? Where's the rest of the money? Or was there money? Or is that just the economy, or did he share it with everybody? Who knows if Madoff is in jail? Do you know? Amy, have you visited him?
No.
You got to go by what they're saying. And as my grandfather told me one time, don't even trust your mother and father.
Yeah.
They might like you, but hey, you might be smarter than them. You have to watch out for yourself. He said, don't even trust me. So I took that, and I understood that every time that I figured out what's wrong, I figured out how they would try to change it or how I could stop it even better. So that made me 6 steps ahead of them in court. sometimes I had to get their butts out of their butts. And I was taking medication. I was taking medication. Now think about this. If I have a federal case that's a precedent, the job case, and it says in there, the judge says, you must help a pro se. You must give lenience with him. Not only that, but your pro se that asks a question, if they don't finish that question, that judge is supposed to finish that question for you because he's a referee up there. And he's to see that you get a fair shake. Now think about this. If mine is precedent, and they can't change it, they never can, never will, and the point is, why aren't the judges giving you help if you're a pro se? Why are they treating you as lawyers? They're breaking the law. Am I right, Bill?
Yes.
What are some of the stuff that we got in here? And that I'm telling you, the dockets we got, we went to the archives and watched.
I've looked it up myself on Justia dockets, and I see it. And I think the issue that we're having here tonight, gentlemen, is that the audio is not coming in really clear. So I want to invite you back on the show.
Oh, anytime, Amy. You're wonderful. Your show's the best.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And, I appreciate everything you guys are doing in the courts. So people can check out your content. I know there's Eugene, Wzorack versus Chicago, but you also have a lot of information on YouTube.
Yeah, there was, but we can get it through your show because you got a lot of viewers and you're an honest lady, and we'll send you a lot of the stuff we got, and we'll tell you how our meetings with the FBI go. Because we've got this one already. There's no way they can go any farther because they're stopped already. You can't appeal a shackman. The shackman is what, Bill? It's just a regular fucking, it's a contract. That's all it is. You can't appeal a contract. So everything is moot after the day I won. And basically everything that's in that case can't be stopped now because they've done away with Shackman. They kept him for 25 years. But listen to this. It's like Roe versus Wade. If I win the case, he's gone. What are they still using him for 25 years? See, that's the... See, but when you got people in there, the wrong people in power, not like Trump, that's not a lawyer, they try to block you and hide you from other people's cases. And basically, you can use things from that case that go into your case. And if you do ask for your audio tape, and it comes out where, like Duff says, I can't give you your tape because everybody will want the tape, and you don't have to be playing on TV every night. Now, why would they play tapes on TV every night unless they were phonies? So
well,
that
the
means
audio
basically...
tape is really relevant. I think it's relevant in everybody's case. I think I would advocate for everybody to file the sworn affidavit that I have created in the porthole to justice. I've posted it in the comments section under the link to the show. I hope everybody reads it over. Thank you guys both for coming on the show. I think the issue has been this evening with the audio, and if I can get you guys on Skype next time, that would be perfect because it's optimal.
Okay, but you know what, Amy, let me tell you one thing before you go. Remember that if they don't answer your affidavit in a certain amount of time, that is assumed to be corrected. You are right. It's just like if you have any court paper or deposition or thing that's not answered in a year, you must assume it's correct, the signature's there. Right, Bill? Yes.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you can also follow up with this by saying, look, you're 2 weeks delinquent, like a bill collector would send a notice out, and you can confirm this by sending these notices out, when they exceed the 30 days or what have you. The courts do, and they do not respond to your request for audio. And this is exceedingly an issue, and many courts and all levels of the judiciary is that they don't want to turn over the audio, which
that's right
has already been, this is something that's already been afforded to us.
Why won't they turn over the audio? What would be your logical reason?
Because they're manipulating the transcripts. And oftentimes, in a lot of courts, what we're dealing with is they don't even have court reporters anymore in the courts because of budgets. So the audio is essential.
what is everybody going to have photographic memories? They're going to remember everything. Like in Linda's case, just to play that last joke that was in her book, they didn't have day 4 in her case, so her lawyer and the court reporter went downstairs in the basement and made it up. How can they make it up? What are they going to make it off of? You know?
Yeah.
You know, it's in the book, and the lawyer says it. She wrote it on a slip of paper. And remember, all your emails, you can be subpoenaed to court for those emails. Remember that.
So I'm going to have you back on the show, and I'm going to post a link to the book, and you guys can email me over pertinent content. And, yeah, everybody can access it through the Porthole to Justice.
Yeah, you're great, Amy. And you know what? You sound so darn young all the time. You're 100, you'll sound like that. You got a great radio voice.
I probably will. I can't change my voice, obviously, so... Yeah, thank you
really?
so much. Yeah, Bill Fabricius.
And you're very smart. Very smart. And you got a lot of panache.
A panache? Oh, my. That's, you know,
like that,
I've actually been told I have chutzpah, but... That's...
So you just... Hey, listen, don't everybody get down on themselves because they're losing. How the hell can you expect to win when they're all cheating?
Yeah, you know, everybody, don't get depressed because you're losing in court. Don't let them beat you down with their, you know, fabricated slander of your character as a parent. Don't get down. Don't get discouraged. Tune into the Porthole to Justice. And, you know, thanks, guys, so much for coming on. You always lift my spirits.
Let me talk about the FBI. Let me talk about the FBI. One last thing about the FBI Stover. He says, if everything's so crooked, how the hell did you win and they're cheating you? I said, he couldn't afford to let me lose because the other way was so stupid. They were even talking to her about framing me, and he didn't want me appealing on him, and that he would lose, and they never told him.
How can the FBI not know when all the big banks are involved in trafficking and they're complicit? I mean, it's so. I mean, we could talk about this, you know, and go on and on, but it's so blatant in your face with the people.
I know you got to get what you got to get out when we can with you, Amy, because it's a pleasure talking with you.
It's such a pleasure, guys. Thanks so much, Bill and Eugene. Bill and Eugene Wzorack. You can look him up. He's on Justia.com. He has a lawsuit, Wzorack versus the state of Chicago. And thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Yeah, we're going to have you back on and have you on through Skype because apparently the guests can't hear your voices very well. So
okay, well, we'll get in and we'll tell you what the FBI says, so keep your fingers up. We'll find out what they're talking about. Eventually, they're going to have to do their job.
Yeah.
And that's what you're all calling on.
Yeah.
Right, Bill?
I agree completely.
We'll
everybody,
send you some
thank you for tuning in to the Porthole to Justice off the cuff. I'm sorry, did you want to say something, Bill?
We'll send you some references that you can post on your blog.
All right.
And say hi to
Porthole to Justice.
Wonderful.
Say hi to your son for me.
Wonderful.
Yeah, give our best to Aiden.
Oh, thank you so much. He's such a beautiful boy.
Say hi to your
precious.
son.
Yes. Okay, guys. Well, it's been fun while it lasted. This has been another episode of Porthole to Justice, the window to the truth, off the cuff. All right, guys. Have a great evening. I'll be back at 7 p.m. with Ms. Lotus Justice.